Coach Brent Thompson is alongside for this evening's program as we get ready to get the season underway. Obviously, Coach, it's your job all year round. Very little time, is it not, something that you're preparing for the upcoming season. But a lot of people, this is when it really kind of gets going. So let's talk about where your team is, where your week is, and how you feel in general about your group as you head into the 2017
That team is at South Atlantic Bank.
Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country.
South Atlantic Bank offers competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase or refinance.
But I'll tell
If
you
you
what,
need
where
a
we are
mortgage
right now is
loan,
we
you
are
need the mortgage
ready
loan
to start the
professionals
season.
at South
We're tired of
Atlantic
going against
Bank.
one another.
South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
About 25 or 26 practices or so.
Buying a
we're
home
getting
is a
to that
big
point right
financial
now
decision,
where,
so you
we
need
gotta
a
stop
strong
beating on one
team
another and
working
start
on your
to get after
mortgage.
somebody else.
That
So
team is at
we
South
don't know
Atlantic
exactly
Bank.
where we are until we
Decisions
play
are
that
made
first
right
game.
here in our
You know what we need to
community
work on.
by
We
mortgage
need to do a little
professionals
bit
who
better
really
here
know
and
the
there.
Low
So,
Country.
we've got to
South
perfect almost
Atlantic
every
Bank
part of our
offers
game going
competitive
into
rates
the-
and
into,
terms
this
on
game
loans for home
to make sure that
purchase
we,
or refinance.
can come out a winner on this one.
If you need
I
a
know
mortgage loan,
that,
you need the mortgage
a
loan
lot of times
professionals at
players
South
do
Atlantic
exactly
Bank.
what you're talking about. They're
South
tired
Atlantic
of hitting
Bank
each
Mortgage
other.
Group,
But
providing the
talk
keys
to me
to
about
home
the
ownership.
temptation of,
Buying a
when
home
do
is
you
a
kind
big
of pull
financial
back as
decision,
coaches? You've
so you
had
need
a
a strong
lot
team
longer
working on your
for the
mortgage.
first opponent
That
than you'll
team
have for
is
the
at South
second when you do
Atlantic
some
Bank.
advanced scouting.
Decisions are
obviously.
made right
But
here in our
terms
community
of,
by mortgage
you could drive
professionals who
yourself
really know
crazy
the
if
Low
you just keep
Country.
looking at film
South
on
Atlantic
opponents.
Bank
So how do
offers
you guys
competitive
back
rates
off?
and terms on loans
we've
for
got about
home
a 10-day
purchase
rule.
or
So about 10 days out,
refinance.
we kind of stop doing everything. We kind of
If you
narrow
need
our
a
game
mortgage
plan down.
loan, you need the mortgage loan
We do a little bit
professionals at
less
South
interaction
Atlantic
after those
Bank.
10 days. We just still
South
do a couple
Atlantic
things
Bank
together,
Mortgage
but,
Group, providing
offense
the
and defense are
keys to
mostly
home
separate.
ownership.
We try to close out our game plan about
Buying
10
a
days
home
out,
is a
which is
big
couple more days
financial
than you
decision,
normally get.
so you need a
But if
strong
you sit there,
team
like
working
you're
on
saying,
your
you start
mortgage.
thinking about,
That
hey, we
team
can do
is
this,
at
we
South
can do this, and
Atlantic
next thing
Bank.
you know, you'll drive yourself
Decisions are
crazy.
made right here in our
And kids won't know
community
what the game
by
plan
mortgage
is. So,
professionals who
it's
really
most
know the Low
important that they
Country.
do their-
South
they've got
Atlantic
an
Bank
idea of what
offers
the game plan is,
competitive
and we're narrowed
rates
down.
and
So we've been narrowed
terms
down
on
for
loans
probably
for
the
home
last 5
purchase
days
or
so,
refinance.
and just kind of figuring out exactly
If you need a
what we
mortgage
need to work
loan,
on,
you
what
need
we
the
to
mortggage
continue
loan
to get better at.
professionals at South
A lot of
Atlantic
times it always
Bank.
comes down to technique and
South Atlantic Bank
We've got a lot
Mortgage
of
Group,
time to ask
providing
a
the
lot of
keys to
questions
home
of Coach, and we're going
ownership.
to do that here from Home
Buying
Team
a home
Barbecue
is a big
downtown
financial
on Willamette.
decision, so you need a strong team working
the
on
last
your
time I
mortgage.
talked to you after
That
a
team
scrimmage,
is at South
you
Atlantic
were pretty
Bank.
settled
Decisions
with
are made
regards
right
to
here in our
ones,
community
guys who are
by
gonna
mortgage
start on both
professionals who
sides of
really
the
know the Low
football.
Country.
And the development
South
of the
Atlantic
twos
Bank
was kind of
offers
coming at that
competitive
point.
rates
So
and
where are
terms
you in
on
the
loans for
development
home
of
purchase
the
or
of the
refinance.
depth chart, filling out the depth chart
If you
in
need a
terms of
mortgage
guys you're
loan, you
comfortable
need the
with
mortgage
being
loan
the twos?
professionals at South
We're
Atlantic
still,
Bank.
South
we're still
Atlantic
gonna
Bank
probably
Mortgage
have
Group,
that,
providing the keys to home
as a loose
ownership.
end probably until the end of the first couple of games.
Buying a
You're
home
still
is a
gonna
big
figure out who
financial
those two
decision,
really
so
solid
you need a
twos really
strong
are.
team
Really what
working
it
on
comes
your
down to
mortgage.
is,
That team
where's
is
the
at South
rotation
Atlantic
gonna
Bank.
begin at?
Decisions are made
We've got
right
it on
here
the
in our
defensive line,
community
we've got it in
by
the
mortgage
secondary a little
professionals
bit.
who really
We've
know
got
the
our
Low
linebackers
Country.
settled pretty
South
much where
Atlantic
we
Bank
want it.
offers
There's
competitive
still a
rates
couple
and
loose ends
terms
and open
on
ends
loans
the
for home
offensive
purchase
line.
or
We
refinance.
know who probably the third tackle is going to be.
If you need a mortgage loan, you need the mortgage loan professionals at South Atlantic Bank.
South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
That could push into the
Buying a
starting
home is a
and get
big
little bit
financial
of, get a few
decision,
reps
so
in
you need
there.
a strong
The
team
history
working
shows
on your
this offense,
mortgage.
A-back has been
That
used
team
for it.
is at South
We've got down
Atlantic
to our
Bank.
fifth A-back.
Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country.
South Atlantic Bank offers competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase or refinance. If you need a mortgage loan, you need the mortgage loan professionals at South Atlantic Bank.
South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
About the
Buying a home is a big financial decision, so you need a strong team working on your mortgage. That team is at South Atlantic Bank.
Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country.
South Atlantic Bank offers competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase or refinance.
Nobody's ever heard of before. The guys
if you
that
need
kinda
a mortgage
splash onto
loan,
the
you need the
scene,
mortgage loan
is that type
professionals
of a
at
season
South
you think
Atlantic
for your
Bank.
guys?
No doubt.
South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
He's going to play B-back for us.
Buying a home is a
You're gonna hear
big
about Ronald
financial
Webb, who's playing
decision,
wide
so
receiver,
you need a
both redshirt
strong
guys
team
for us.
working on your
You're gonna hear a
mortgage.
little bit more
That
about Drew
team is
McIntyre,
at South
played a little
Atlantic
bit
Bank.
for us as a true
Decisions
freshman,
are
but
made
he's
right
gonna be
here
a
in our
permanent starter
community
there for
by
us on
mortgage
the offensive
professionals
line.
who really know the Low
On the
Country.
defensive side, you'll hear
South
a little bit
Atlantic Bank
more,
offers
guys
competitive
that were,
rates and terms
maybe
on
back up
loans for
last
home
year,
purchase
Jalen
or
Williams, Israel
refinance.
You'll hear some young guys named.
If you need a mortgage
Joseph
loan, you
Randolph
need the
was a
mortgage loan
sophomore.
professionals
He'll get a
at
little
South
bit more
Atlantic
playing time than
Bank.
he got last year.
South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home
Aaron
ownership.
Spann is one of those guys. He's played
Buying a home is a big financial decision, so you need a strong team working on your mortgage. That team is at South Atlantic Bank.
Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country.
South Atlantic Bank offers competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase or refinance.
That's for sure.
If
We
you
got
need
lot
a
of
mortgage
things to get
loan,
to
you
on the
need the
program
mortgage loan
tonight with
professionals
Coach
at
Thompson.
South
We're going to
Atlantic
take our
Bank.
first break of the show.
South Atlantic Bank
and we're gonna
Mortgage
come
Group,
back. I will
providing
tell
the
you right
keys to
away,
home
Coach,
ownership.
that I did dig up something, and it's to have
Buying
a
a
little
home
bit of
is a
fun with
big
you a little bit
financial
later
decision,
on.
so
I'm
you
gonna
need a
talk to you
strong
about the
team
three
working on your mortgage.
things
That
coaches
team is
say
at South
in
Atlantic
camp
Bank.
that may
Decisions
or
are
may
made
not
right
be
here in our
completely
community
true.
by mortgage professionals
Things
who really know
coaches
the Low
say
Country.
in camp.
South Atlantic
And I'll
Bank
tell you about
offers
that coming up a
competitive
little bit
rates
later on. I
and
think it'll be
terms
fun.
on loans for
I'm
home
curious as
purchase
to
or
whether you
refinance.
say these very words or
If you
not.
need a
So we're gonna
mortgage loan,
come
you
up
need
with
the
that
mortgage
coming up
loan
in just a little bit
professionals
from
at
right
South
now.
Atlantic
This
Bank.
is the head coach Brent
South
Thompson
Atlantic
radio
Bank Mortgage
show. As we
Group,
broadcast
providing the
live
keys
from Home
to
Team
home
Barbecue
ownership.
downtown. It is our brand new
Buying a home
location.
is a big
And we're gonna
financial
take a time out and
decision,
come
so you
back
need a
with
strong
segment number
team
2
working on
next
your mortgage.
on
That
ESPN
team
Radio
is at South Atlantic
94.7
Bank.
FM
Decisions
and
are made right
910
here in
AM.
our community by mortgage professionals.
Style, selection, service, quality, value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
We build our communities. We earn our success. We, as South Carolinians, work best together. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Until then, stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank. People you know and trust.
I enlisted in the Army in 2005. I went to Iraq 3 times and Afghanistan once. She's the culprit that ripped our door off. 2,000-pound animal bumping into a steel door creates quite a bit of damage. I actually use the app, take pictures of it right there for USAA, and they take care of the rest. USAA is great about working with both active and separated military. I'm Josh Eilers, and I'm a USAA member for life.
Call USAA today to talk about your insurance needs.
Charleston Crab House has been serving locals and visitors alike for the last 20 years. We have our crispy whole flounder. We have the seared ahi tuna. You name it, in the seafood business, we have it.
Be sure to stop by the Tiger and Leaf Lounge whenever you visit our locations. We have many frozen and specialty drinks, awesome margaritas. One of my favorites is the Wapu Punch.
If you don't like it down in the historic district, come over to James Island, sit on the Intercoastal Waterway. It is an unbelievable view where it's southern seafood at sensible prices and a darn good time. Charleston Crab House has been serving locals and visitors alike for the last 20 years. We have our crispy whole flounder. We have the seared ahi tuna.
Welcome back to the show. This is the Brent Thompson Radio Show, and it is live from Home Team Barbecue downtown. It is our brand new facility for hosting the show. We're glad you're with us. Thanks to everybody who is here in the audience this evening and watching and listening to the show wherever you may be. Lots of different ways to get it out there, and we're happy to have you with us for the program tonight. Head coach Brent Thompson is alongside, and I mentioned before the break I was going to have a little bit of fun with Coach, and since it's coming right out of fall camp and the breaking of fall camp, I will ask Coach if he is guilty of some of the things that I'm about to mention here. And it's 3 things, at least 3 things that coaches say in fall camp that may or may not be exactly how it is. So let's get started with these 3 things. First of all, a lot of coaches in fall camp say every job is open, there are no starters here, it's a competition. Is that true, Coach? Or from time to time, is that something coaches just say?
I have been accused of saying that. However, I did say this year that not every job is open. I said there's a few jobs that are open out there. Now, unfortunately, on offense, we had a lot more than we really should. But, yeah, you know, we've all been accused of that to make sure that we get every single little bit of competition out of them. And that way that nobody gets too comfortable and nobody feels like they don't have a chance. So I'm sure we've all been accused of saying that, and rightfully so.
So every job sometimes is not open. But, again, I get why you do it. I mean, you got to say that to your guys. You can't let your guys think that they don't have to they don't have to go after it all that terribly hard there. So a couple of other ones here, and we'll see if Coach claims to be guilty in these regards too. A lot of coaches will say, we're only focused on week one. That's it. Only week one. We're not looking any further ahead than that. Is that true? Do coaches look ahead?
Absolutely. I never look ahead. I always feel that we're going to get beat if we start looking ahead. So I always say that we're definitely looking on that week, and to the point where I don't even look at the depth chart. I got the depth chart for Presbyterian today. I won't even look at that. I just kind of move on from there and give it to the younger guys to handle and break down the film. If you start overlooking people, you're going to get beat.
So it is something you say, but it is truthful. And,
absolutely truthful.
But not one of those things that you're just saying for the sake of saying it. And the last thing, we don't pay attention to what the media is saying about us this year. Not at all. Do you say that, first of all, and is that something that actually is true or not true?
We do absolutely say that. I don't think it's true, though. I think everybody to a point kind of looks at it, and it can work in your benefit at times if they're saying some negative things about you, and you just kind of, you got to try to get over that. But there's also times where you look at it as a positive way.
Have you been known from time to time to look, you know what, I kind of need a little extra motivation for my guys, and then look for something maybe in the media that you can use?
That's why I've got guys like Zeke over there. Zeke kind of clues me into what's going on. I don't read a whole lot of the media for a lot of reasons. But anytime that I need something, I go to my man, my media guy, and ask him what I can really use and what's out there and what's being said, at least. That saves me a whole heck of a lot of time.
You came out good out of this deal. 3 things coaches say in camp that may not be completely true. Coach has gone through a few of those things now. Before we get too deep here, something you said at the beginning of your press conference yesterday, I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper on. You had mentioned that there were players on your team, Houston area players, whose families were affected with everything that was hurricane/tropical storm Harvey. How much of a deal was that with guys? You got 4 guys: Chance Steverson, Carl Cunningham, Hayden Haas, and Josh LeBlanc, who are from that area of Texas.
Yeah, it was a major deal for us, and it was a major deal for us to just make sure that the young men reached out to their family. I spoke to Josh LeBlanc's mom. I texted back and forth with her, left her a message. She left me a message back that she was doing fine. Her house was, getting close to being underwater. She was more concerned about her mom and dad, and she was with her mom and dad at the time. Spoke to Chance today. Again, just an update on that. I spoke to Chance, and he was, his family was doing okay. So, as another update, and we've been, Coach Gunner's been in contact with Hayden Haas's family. He's gotten to know them really well, and surprisingly, they're doing as well as can be right now. I know a lot of games have been canceled down there, but as far as we know, everything's been in good shape for all of our players, including Carl.
That's good news. It certainly is something that you've had to deal with for 2 years in a row now. More affected here, obviously, last year with Matthew going through. So good to know that things are going okay there. Obviously, it's going to be a distraction for the guys. You're always going to be worried about your family and how things are going with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing we want to make sure that their minds were at ease and that they had been contacted with them and then they've been talking to them. So I know that took a big load off of them, and certainly load off my mind as well.
So here we are just a few days away from your first game. You're coming off of a season where you went 10-2 in 2016. You won all 8 games in league play to win a second consecutive conference championship. The one thing I hear people say all the time when people write previews about your ball club this year is, for as well as things went last year, how do they top that? How does season number 2 go? So how would you answer that?
Well, I don't know that they could go much better than that, of course. We're certainly going to try. There's no doubt about it. But every season is going to be different. Every group of young men is going to be different out there. I still feel strongly about this crew, and I know that they're a little bit young. I feel really good about where we're at. I feel really good about what our coaches have done recruiting-wise. So you never count these guys out, that's for sure. So I do feel that we can make a dent in this league. I still think that we still got a lot of work to do to match last year's team. But last year we didn't know what last year's team was going to be either. In 2 years ago when we were 9-4, we started off 2-2 and took a pretty good butt whipping by Georgia Southern going into the Wofford game. So we didn't know at the end of the year that we were going to beat South Carolina. You never know, and that's why we play the games.
So now, you spoke about the league. You're picked second behind Wofford. How do you see the league going this year? Do you see it being a competitive one-possession game each and every week? Do you see teams that have separated themselves perhaps from others, and maybe where do you stack up in regards to upper tier or lower tier, or however it may be classified?
I think we're probably somewhere in the middle. I like the way that the coach picked Wofford. I think they've got a great chance at winning the conference this year. They've got a tremendous defense that they've been building, and they're still fairly young on defense. They're still sophomores and juniors, and they find a good way on the offensive side to be able to move the ball and take care of the ball and score points when they need to. And then there's going to be teams out there like Mercer and Sanford that are going to make a run at it. Mercer's probably at that point, I think, where they can start to develop those guys. They've been in the SoCon for about 4 years now, so all their guys should be, starting to get around that time, and Coach Lamb does a good job there. Sanford's always been one of those programs that can be deadly at any point. They're always talented. You got to be on your game for those guys as well. And watching Chattanooga the other day, they certainly have got the talent to beat you. That's a team that's going to get better with time. They've got a different coaching staff in there, and once that coaching staff gets settled down in there and they've got all their they've been taking reps with their plays, and both offense and defensively, I think they got a chance, of course. So I think somewhere we're in the middle there, and hopefully we'll be able to knock off a couple of those teams on the way, and we'll see how the rest of the year plays out.
Coach used the words developing players. We're going to talk about that with him when we come back from this timeout. And talk about, when you are a young football team, player development among the coaches becomes paramount. And so we'll talk to the coach about how he feels his guys are in terms of developing young players, growing them up. That's what we'll start with when we come back from the break. We're at Home Team Barbecue downtown. It's our brand new site for the Brent Thompson radio show, and we will continue after the break on ESPN Radio 94.7 FM and 910 AM.
You've seen us compete on Barbecue Pit Wars. You've heard about our award-winning barbecue and wings, but have you tried Qology yet? Barbecue nachos, award-winning ribs, barbecue tacos, and of course our pulled pork sandwiches, just for a start. Live entertainment and happy hour Monday through Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. Visit Qology Barbecue today, located at 32C North Market Street at the corner of North Market and East Bay.
General Shale makes your great outdoors even better with big savings on its outdoor living collection. Everything you need to create your own backyard fire pit, outdoor fireplace, General Shale delivers to your home and can recommend a contractor. Or offers easy-to-follow instructions to do it yourself. Save money now on backyard fun with General Shale's complete outdoor living collection. Hurry, your great outdoors is waiting for you. General
Deli
Shale
for over a decade at East Bay Deli. East Bay Deli is in New York.
Since 2002, the lottery has helped award more than 1 million scholarships. So when you play, you're not just taking a chance. You're also giving one.
Whisk Coffee and Juice Bar, located on the corner of Meeting and Market Street. Stroll in, sit and relax in our warm and inviting cafe while enjoying a locally roasted, freshly brewed espresso, cappuccino, or regular coffee, featuring healthy options including our in-house grown wheatgrass, fresh squeezed juice and smoothies, salads, and more. Whisk Coffee and Juice Bar, 209 Meeting Street, downtown Charleston.
Style. Selection.
Welcome back to Home Team Barbecue downtown, the brand new site for the Brent Thompson radio show. As we come into segment number 3, I'm your host, Mike Legg. Thank you very much for being alongside on ESPN Radio 94.7 FM and 910 AM. Another show back here next week. We're in the thick of it, and this week, Saturday evening, 6 p.m., the Newberry Wolves are coming to town to face the Citadel Bulldogs at Johnson Haygood Stadium, and Coach has got his guys ready to go. We do from time to time get tweets with questions, and I did see one of those before we went into the break, and now here we are in an ability to ask Coach about some of those. And so you can tweet your questions at Mike Legg Tweets is the place that you can do that. First of all, Coach, I got a question about uniforms and uniform combinations and any changes. If there is a traditional purist type of a place, it's definitely the school that you coach at. So what are you thinking where all of that is concerned? Anything you're going to unveil, or are you keeping it close to the vest?
We've got one more uniform combination that we're going to bring out this year sometime. But yeah, the kids like it. The keeps us on our toes a little bit. Obviously, the fans enjoy it, or it gives them something to talk about at least. But and then part of it's a little bit of superstition. Is when do we bring certain jerseys out? Who do we play against? And the way we played the last time in that set of jerseys, that always counts. Or pants. But you know what? A lot of it is I leave it up to the leadership council, and a lot of it really just depends upon the players. It's one of those things where it doesn't really matter what we wear to me. As long as the kids feel good about it and we go out there and we play well in those, I leave it up to them. It's one of those things that they feel empowered with, which is kind of nice.
I'm glad to hear that you're not as superstitious about uniforms as maybe what you eat when you have the show here, because this is, our 13th show together, and you've never had anything other than the wings. That's it.
Well, when they're the best in town, Mike, that's what you get when you come here, right?
It is, that's for sure. And it's not a bad choice, that's for sure, for the wings. And you were, I don't think you lost a game with wings at the table.
I don't think so.
Year, so pretty strong. That is pretty strong. Okay, so now let's look at one other question here that we got tweeted in here. We've talked about freshmen that are going to play. Are you set at certain positions to a point where you would definitely redshirt certain guys? Or are you a point now where it's like, we haven't necessarily made those decisions about guys that you're going to redshirt?
No, we really haven't. We've really gone into this game saying that we're going to play what we need. We're going to play what we need this year. We're at that point right now where I think we can do that. We've redshirted about 23 guys over the last 2 years, so I think we've got plenty of fourth-year, fifth-year guys coming up the ranks. So this year, I think, if they're good enough, they're going to play, and we've got some of those guys. Wally Wilmore comes to mind. He's probably going to play some for us, and whether it's special teams, which he'll definitely play on. He's a tremendous punt kick returner, or at corner, which I think he's going to play a lot at corner. So the trick is to try to make that decision as early as possible so that they can maximize their time on the field. But, there's going to be certain positions where you feel good about what you got. And I think you kind of alluded to it as developmental. There's guys that you've kind of tagged as developmental guys anyway. And then there's certainly guys that you think can play right away. And we've got about 4 or 5 of those guys.
You had, I'm glad you brought that up, because I had said that I would talk about player development when we came back from a break, and then I got off in another direction. So talk to me about player development, because, it's one thing to recruit a kid, get him to campus when he's got great potential, but sometimes they need growing up. Matter of fact, all of them will need growing up. How is your staff at player development and growing kids up?
I think we're one of the best in the business. There's no doubt about it. And it starts with our strength coach. He's one of the best in the business at developing our players, because if we get them and they're not strong, or they're not in great shape, or they're not tough, because you build toughness in the weight room as well, they're not going to be very good for us. So we always start with Coach Boucher in the weight room, and we kind of build our toughness from there. Sometimes it also starts on the practice field. It starts on the scout team. Both of our scout teams can be very, very demanding. If we don't get a certain look, or if you're not tough on the scout team, it could be a hard, long season for you. And we've seen guys that have just developed toughness on the practice squad, which is, to me, is probably one of the most important positions we have on our football field or on our football team. Is that practice squad, when they get us ready for teams, they do a heck of a job for us, and we have to reward them as much as we can. So sometimes they're developmental on the practice squad as well. And then our coaches do a great job throughout the spring and throughout summer camp of being able to get our guys to the point where they can practice and they can play for us and they can get on the field for us. And that really comes down to our technique and fundamentals. Every day we talk and teach about footwork, where your eyes are, where your keys are, what your reads are. And we don't ever undersell the fact that we need to be technique and fundamentally sound at the Citadel and develop our players as best we can in order to win.
Something that I've always been fascinated with you and your coaching staff is your philosophy on the offensive line. You want to pick 5 guys, and you're going to stick with those 5 guys. Sometimes injuries don't allow you to stick with that, but sometime back within the last maybe 2 weeks, you settled on a group of 5 that you wanted to have out there. for all of the snaps. Tell me what made you do it at that particular point in time to get these guys as a group of 5 working together each and every snap.
You know, you've got to watch. You got to in detail. You got to watch your practice film and watch what each individual player does. And on all those practice film, we saw just enough of some of our younger guys. Jonathan Cole is the one really that kind of solidified that unit. J.B. Lewis, some of our true freshman guys that are going to play at guard. And we said, you know what, he's got the tools, he's got the ability. We just need to coach him, and we need to coach him hard, and we need to get after him a little bit. And if we do that, then he'll be able to be very, very functional for us, and he'll be a 4-year player for us, which I think both those guys will be. Very similar to what we did with Drew last year. I think Drew started the first game for us, Drew McIntyre, at right guard for us. So we did that last year as well. But you have to make that about a good solid 2 or 3 weeks out. And I think we got about 18 to 20 practices with this starting lineup that I like. And we'll continue to get better from there. You've got to be able to project beyond the first game and into the mid part of your season.
The offensive line, is it the biggest question mark that you have right now? I mean, going into the season, is that the one?
Yeah, I say without a doubt. You've got the be-back position, but I do feel comfortable with the guys that by committee that we have back there. What we do on the offensive line is so technique-oriented that it takes a long time for us to develop. Coach Boyd has developed a lot of tremendous offensive linemen over the course of the last 6 years that I've been with them, that generally it'll take us a good solid 3 semesters, we say, to get somebody ready to play for us. So we've got to take 3 semesters and put it into really just about 25 practices to get this young crew ready to play.
You got bigger up front. Was that by design? Are you looking for bigger guys who are also fast and can move? Or did you change approaches in terms of the way you recruited down linemen, maybe from the past?
Yeah, we did, and we based it upon our last loss there to Wofford, and we felt we got pushed around a little bit. And they're matching 315-pounders with our 265, 275 pound guys, which was going to be very tough for us to move out of there. We got to create more double teams, so getting 315 pounders in there allows us to be able to do more single blocking in there, covering guys up a little bit, just getting a little bit more girth on the inside, which is gonna help our offense. So we made a concerted effort to go out and find a couple 300-pounders, which we did. Hayden Haas is well over 300 pounds, and then J.B. Lewis is about 310, 315, and Jonathan Cole's a little bit low. He's about 295 right now. So yeah, we definitely set out to get bigger and stronger. Because we don't want to get pushed around by the Woffords of the world anymore.
We are at the halfway point of today's show, and it's the first one of the 2017 season. And we'll take a timeout, and when we come back, we'll dive into a couple of other things with Coach here, including the concept of instant replay, which is going to be available for the Citadel and Mercer. Now, Mercer plays here. So the Bulldogs are going to be exposed to instant replay more than anybody else in the league. And we'll talk to Coach about that dynamic. It's been something that you've had in the playoffs, but now it's something that in all of your home games, you're going to be in a position to have it. And, of course, probably the Clemson game as well. So the topic of instant replay is something I'm asked about quite a bit. We'll talk about that with the coach when we come back to Home Team Barbecue downtown at 126 Williman Street. And Coach and I return after the break on ESPN Radio 94.7 FM and 910 AM.
We build our communities. We earn our success. We, as South Carolinians, work best together. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Until then, stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank. People you know and trust.
You name it, in the seafood business, we have it.
Be sure to stop by the Tiger and Leaf Lounge whenever you visit our locations. We have many frozen and specialty drinks, awesome margaritas. One of my favorites is the Wapu Punch.
If you don't like it down in the historic district, come over to James Island, sit on the Intercoastal Waterway. It is an unbelievable view where it's southern seafood at sensible prices and a darn good time.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville.
You've seen us compete on Barbecue Pit Wars. You've heard about our award-winning barbecue and wings, but have you tried Qology yet? Barbecue nachos, award-winning ribs, barbecue tacos, and of course our pulled pork sandwiches, just for a start. Live entertainment and happy hour Monday through Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. Visit Qology Barbecue today. located at 32C North Market Street at the corner of North Market and East Bay. You've seen us compete on Barbecue Pit Wars.
Great outdoors even better with big savings on its outdoor living collection. Everything you need to create your own backyard fire pit. Outdoor fireplace. General Shale delivers to your home and can recommend a contractor. Or offers easy-to-follow instructions to do it yourself. Save money now on backyard fun with General Shale's complete outdoor living collection. Hurry, your great outdoors is waiting for you.
With a distinctive southern flair. Our eclectic menu is fresh, delicious, and affordable. Enjoy our fresh salad bar, large sandwiches featuring certified Angus beef, delicious and healthy wraps, and our selection of gluten-free options. Come in for our signature sandwich, the Citadel. Our Carnegie Deli cheesecake will take you straight
downtown. We are at Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue on Williman Street. 126 Williman Street is the brand new home of the Coach Brent Thompson radio show. Thank you very much for being with us this evening as we talk about the Citadel Bulldogs. Let's take a little trip around first before we get to the whole instant replay thing, Coach, because it's a big topic. Obviously, people want to hear about it and talk about it, and it's something you have to be versed on. But I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a trip around the team, an offense, a defense, and a special teams, because, again, as I mentioned earlier in the show, most of us left off with your team on an every game basis back after the playoffs. And so you've had a lot of developments with regards to things that are happening around the team. So take us on a little tour around the offense and the defense and the special teams and talk about some names that we're going to hear this year on your team.
Well, when in the offense, we're going to try to do a little bit more with our wide receivers, which I really like a wide receiver core. And that's almost difficult for me to say at times. I don't think I've ever had quite the wide receiver core that I got right now, and I really enjoy these guys, and they're young. We moved Kurt Nixon from the safety spot, corner spot, all the way over to the wide receiver, and he's going to play a little bit for us. He's going to be a punt returner for us there, so I knocked out both offense and special teams on that one. But then you got guys like Raleigh Webb. I mean, he's a big target out there. He's done a nice job for us. He's continually developing into wide receiver. Never played wide receiver before. He was a safety all during high school. And then Josh LeBlanc, he did a tremendous job, played a lot for us as a true freshman last year. He's another big, runs extremely well wide receiver. So if we can target those guys, and Dominique has been throwing the ball extremely well over the last 10 days of camp. I think he threw the ball extremely well. The first 2 weeks we were struggling a little bit, but I think we got better as the day went on. Tyler Davis in the middle at center. He's one of the, I think he's got a chance to be an all-conference player and possibly a Jacobs Blocking Trophy guy if he continues to play like I think he can play. B-back, like we talked about, was by committee. It's going to be Brandon. It's going to be Brandon Berry and Brandon Rainey. And you're going to see a little bit of Lorenzo Ward in there, too, a guy that you haven't, a guy that we redshirted and didn't play a whole lot last year. Quarterback position, you know all about it. It's Dominique, but Jordan's making a great push, and I think you're going to see Jordan play. As soon as the defense settles down, we see what we're getting consistently. You'll see Jordan play quite a bit in there, a series or two in the first and maybe 2 or 3 in the second, depending on how it goes. Defensively we'll start with the defensive line right there. You're anchored by Jonathan King out there, who's going to be probably the old timer in the crew right there. He's doing a great job for us. And then Ken Allen, Ken's an anchor in there. He's doing a good job. You'll see some young guys. John Wesley Whiteside's going to take some reps in there. And then at the 5 technique, you see some guys that haven't played a whole lot for us in the last 2 years. Israel Battle. You'll see Jalen Stevens a little bit as far as the UConn transfer from Goose Creek. You'll also see Trey White in there. Trey White at the 5 technique. Joseph Randolph will play a little bit of 5 and interior for us. Those will be about the guys that you're going to see all around the defensive line. You're going to see them in different spots. Some can play 3, some can play nose, and then you'll have the 2 5 techniques. Miles Pierce at the linebacker spot. Miles has got that thing pretty much hammered down, but he's also going to take we've taken Russell Hubbs, and we've kind of dual trained him with both spots. Phil Davis is making a push for there, but the young kid there, Willie Eubanks, has done a nice job. And Willie, as a true freshman, has a chance to break into that lineup, depending on how things go as a true freshman on the defensive side, which is going to be tough. I talked a lot about Wally Wilmore, not only in special teams, but at corner. We're fairly old at corner. We've got 3 of the 4 back there are fourth-year guys and fifth-year guys. So you've got You got Tyus Carter's going to play a lot for us back there. Ben Roberts, who's a returning starter for us. And then you got Wally Wilmore and Shai Phillips, all going to take reps back there. Kali, you're not going to take that spot away from Kali Williams at safety. And then Aaron Spann, I spoke about a little bit earlier at the rover spot. The only other spot that I left out on the offense and defense was the A-backs, which I'm really pleased with the way the A-backs have played. Rod Johnson's played extremely well. He's had a great camp. Really didn't play a whole lot in the spring, kind of battled back. And he's done a great job for us, and I really like what he and, of course, Cam Jackson's returning back there, and then Grant Drakeford's had a nice camp. We've had a couple of really good young players at A-back that I really like the way that they developed. Malik Brooks, big, physical. We moved him from B-back to A-back. He's picking it up still a little bit. There's a good chance that he's going to play later on in the year, and that's what we're getting him ready for, somewhere week 3 or 4 to kind of break him in, which would be nice for him. And then Keontae Sessions, who's going to be the fourth A-back. And he's kind of been a solid guy from the start for us, being in a key backup role. Special teams-wise is the 2 kickers. One will be a true freshman there, and that's Noah Cannon, the punter. And he's been booming it. Gage Russell, who is a sophomore for us, a redshirt freshman for us, has really been coming along, being a great backup punter right now. And I feel comfortable with those 2 spots. We're young there, but I feel comfortable. And then Jacob Godak, who struggled early on in camp, really the last 3 or 4 days, and including one day, he had a 52-yarder out there, and he's been solid for the last 3 or 4 days. So I feel a little bit more comfortable going into this game with those guys back there.
Good stuff. Big tour around the offense, defense, and special teams with the coach. Okay, so I want to spend some time in the final segment talking about Newberry and the matchup with Newberry. But now, with regard to the whole instant replay thing, that was one thing that I wanted to make sure that we got to on today's show. You guys have elected to make the investment to be up and ready for instant replay for this season when the league doesn't have to be until next season. So you're going to get an opportunity to potentially take a look at a few things. And so talk about what that does to coaching the game and what that factors in to have instant replay at your game when you're at home.
Well, you still can't replay the judgment calls, which is, that's always the hard thing, but that is still human error in the game. But you can at least replay the cut and dry calls. Was he inbounds? Was he out of bounds? Was it a fumble? Was it not a fumble? Was it a touchdown? Was it not a touchdown? One of the bigger things is the huge human judgment in this game always comes down to the spot, right? Yeah. I mean, it's the old John Madden, right foot, left foot. I mean, which one is it? Where is exactly the ball right there? And that's the one I probably wish I had the most, is when it comes down to a 4th down call and it's 4th and 1. And, Furman comes to mind of last year. I mean, it's clear that all we needed was a half a yard and we get it by a full body length right there. Those are the calls that you really want to come back and say, man, you need to take a look at this. But there's the touchdowns, of course, that you're always going to have the fumbles. You'd love to have that. Without Wofford, I think there's 2 fumbles that were clearly fumbles in that game that you'd like to kind of take another look at. And it's not even an official thing. And sometimes the officials just, they can't make a call. Nobody's in place right there to make the call, and that's hard. It's a big field out there. And really the head of officials wants this, which is great. I mean, he just wants to get the call right. So I completely understand that. And I think it's a huge benefit for us. It's great for us to be on the cutting edge of this, as General Rosa said the other day. We're excited to be able to be one of the first 2 in the league to have it, and it'll at least give us a little bit of a jump start on how it works.
Now, one thing I do know about it is that you have a challenge that you can use. If you win it, you can have one more. So it's not not going to slow the game down because not everything, they'll look at every play, but you can't make them look at every play.
Yeah, and they'll say, Coach, just slow down. We'll take a look at this play. Or just kind of ease up. We're taking a look at this one. So they're going to work with you a little bit. If it's one of those things that you feel adamantly about and that they're going to miss it or whatever, and sometimes it is those spots or the inbounds, out of bounds, or was it a catch, not a catch kind of a deal. So I think it'll be nice just to have it as a tool. Last year when we went into Gardner-Webb, we had it up there in the Big South. We had it at North Carolina. We had it in the playoff game. Sometimes you forget about it. If you don't have it, if you don't ever have the luxury of it, you just kind of forget about it. And I think just having it available to us every game that's at home will be good.
Your schedule begins with Newberry. You've got Presbyterian after that, ETSU on the road after that. I'm going to ask you about this year's schedule, and then I'm going to ask you about next year's schedule, which has already been released as well. How do you go about it? How do you determine this is who I'd like to schedule based on the team I have coming back and based on maybe what I think that team is capable of from a scheduling perspective?
Well, I don't have a whole lot of say in a lot of it. Is what we typically do is we try to schedule all of our non-conference games, and we try to get our money game. And of course, next year's money game is Alabama. And really, we're at the mercy of kind of those FBS schools. Is when do they want to schedule us? So they want to. Everything's going towards the end of the year game, which we've seen over the last 3 years. So I think that's one of those things that's always going to play a factor in it. And then if you can't fill your out of conference schedule early on, you're going to get league games. Kind of what happened to us last year. We got Mercer and Furman in the first 2 games last year, and that can be very, very difficult. And next year's going to be very difficult. We open up with Wofford, a very good football team. So I don't have a whole lot of say in it, but I do also tell Coach Center and I have a good relationship where I'll say, schedule them where you need to schedule them. I understand the dynamics of it. And, hey, man, we'll line down and play anybody. That's just the kind of team we are.
Yeah, I noticed that next year you got Wofford to lead things off. That is very interesting. This year, Wofford plays Furman to lead things off. So interesting to have league games to start off. And I'm sure you're kind of like, yeah, I'm okay with being off for a year where that's concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to next year. But you know what it does? It makes for rough summers. It makes for a very, very tight summer where you are probably preparing or over-preparing for that first game. That's what happened to us last year with Mercer. We prepared quite a bit for that one.
We're going to get to Newberry, which is this week's opponent, and we'll do that when Coach and I come back in just a couple of moments from right now. We're in our new home for the Brent Thompson Radio Show. It is Home Team Barbecue downtown at 126 Williman Street. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the opponent for this weekend. 6 o'clock on Saturday, the Newberry Wolves are in town. And that will be the topic next. This is the Brent Thompson Radio Show on ESPN Radio, 94.7 FM and 910 AM. Right hash, snap back, ball down, kicks on the way toward the Altman Center. It hits the outside, it came out. It hits the outright and comes out. It's no good, and the Citadel wins!
Off the right upright, the Citadel remains undefeated and clinches its second straight Southern Conference championship.
For the first time in the history of Citadel.
Service. Quality. Value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
We build our communities. We earn our success. We, as South Carolinians, work best together. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Until then, stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank. People you know and trust.
Charleston Crab House has been serving locals and visitors alike for the last 20 years. We have our crispy whole flounder. We have the seared ahi tuna. You name it, in the seafood business, we have it.
Be sure to stop by the Tiger and Leaf Lounge whenever you visit our locations. We have many frozen and specialty drinks, awesome margaritas. One of my favorites is the Wapu Punch.
If you don't like it down in the historic district, come over to James Island, sit on the Intercoastal Waterway. It is an unbelievable view where it's southern seafood at sensible prices and a darn good time.
March 2nd through 6th for the 2017 SoCon Basketball Championship.
Heard about our award-winning barbecue and wings, but have you tried Qology yet? Barbecue nachos, award-winning ribs, barbecue tacos, and of course our pulled pork sandwiches just for a start. Live entertainment and happy hour Monday through...
Welcome back. It's the final segment of the Brent Thompson Radio Show, live from Home Team Barbecue downtown at 126 Williman Street. It's the brand new home for the Brent Thompson Radio Show, and we'll be right back here a week from tonight between 7 and 8. In the last segment of the show, we want to talk about the opposition and get a real good scouting report on the Newberry Wolves, who are coming in this weekend to play the Citadel Bulldogs in a 6 o'clock ball game at Johnson-Hagood Stadium. 20,000-foot view here, Coach, about what Newberry is all about. And I wanted to ask you, too, this is a team that I would imagine you saw when you were at Lenore-Rhine. It's not necessarily a team that's a total stranger to you.
Yeah, this was a scary game for us every year at Lenore-Rhine. You didn't know because they're very, very talented and they can score in a hurry. And that's one of the things that you just didn't know what you're going to get out of them from year to year because they are a tremendous talented team and they do a great job. And Coach Knight's been there for a long time now. I think he's on his 6th or 7th year right now, and he's done a good job of building that program. That program is full of juniors and seniors right now, and they're all playing for him, and he's developed those players. And it's one of those games. It's a little bit scary on that end because they're a 10-2 football team. I know exactly what that conference is all about. He's made a great playoff run, and if it wasn't probably for not having the quarterback in the playoff run against Tuskegee, I think he would have had a much deeper run and had a chance to make it to the playoff or make it to the championship game. So we'll have our work cut out for us. They're very, very big up front. On the offensive line, I know they graduated the 2 running backs, but they've got a wide receiver that's coming back. I think he's going to be close to 2,000 yards here in our game. He's a tremendous player. The quarterback is a younger player, or excuse me, he's a junior, but I think he hasn't played a whole lot with Yeldell being there the last couple of years. But they've always done a pretty good job. Like I said, the staff's been together, so they understand that. On the defensive side, they've got a great Mike linebacker, Joe Blue, I believe is his name, and he's got a bunch of catches, a bunch of tackles, as well as a good 5-technique defensive end. They've always been big up front on the defensive side as well. So it'll be tough moving the ball against these guys, and we hope that we can just play good, sound, fundamental offense and be able to move the ball and be able to shut them down a little bit on defense and hopefully create a few turnovers.
This is a team that looks an awful lot like you if you just look at paper because they were 10-2 last year. They went undefeated in their conference last year, so a lot of similarities with regards to this. Now, they lost their quarterback, and the youngster who's going to be the guy, at least the starter for your game, is Nick Jones, who played in just 6 games, and he's only thrown for 320 yards. This is not a team that's going to try to run it down your throat. They look to have quite a bit of balance, maybe even a little bit more pass to run.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what they do. And they're fairly typical to something like a Sanford maybe. They a lot of bubble screens, a lot of one-under screens, those kind of things. Short passing game where they're going to get the ball in space because they are very talented in space. And they've got some nice quality wide receivers. And when the offensive line is that big, they're tough to get around and they're tough to get a good pass rush off before the ball's out. So I think it's going to be one of those games where we're going to have to do a good job of trying to sit on the wide receivers a little bit and try to force them to keep them in front of you like we typically do to a Sanford team. On the defensive side, as they've been very good against the run, I noticed that just today they've been pretty stout against the run in that league. And you got teams like Carson Newman, they got teams like Brevard who have been one outside veer and one inside veer team, so they know what they're doing against the veer. And of course, seeing them for 4 years straight at LR, I know exactly what they're capable of on defense.
So Newberry is the opponent. They come in at 6 o'clock on Saturday, and the Citadel Bulldogs get their first opportunity there. And then 2 straight home games for the Dogs before they move on to a road game, getting into league play. I'll visit with Coach Knight tomorrow morning on the radio show that I host from 10 to 1. Tell me a little bit more about him, what he believes in, the types of things that all coaches and teams have a characteristic, and a lot of times your team is kind of a mirror image of your coach.
Well, first thing I know this is that he's a very classy guy because every time we faced him when we were at Lenore-Rhine, his team was very, very professional. They were very classy. They always played a good, solid football game. They weren't cheap. They weren't dirty at all. A great bunch of guys, and that speaks a lot to him and his staff. They've always done a good job of being able to, play a good game, play a good, solid game, and no matter what the outcome was, I think they were very, very professional.
Let's go back just a bit here. There's a question that I intended to ask that had to do with when the season ended last year. It didn't end the way you wanted it to. You won 10 in a row and lost 2 in a row to close things out. What was you talked about the 10-day rule with regards to preparation and things of that nature, but when officially did the page get turned last year when you had celebrated your accomplishments for 2016, but then it was time to move on to 2017? What kind of timeline did you take to change all that and move forward?
Well, it was about that Saturday night that we lost. I didn't let the loss try to affect me too much because we certainly did have a good season, and I was bummed out the fact that we didn't continue to play, we didn't move on. But those things are happening, and I can't complain. I had a great bunch of seniors, and that was probably the most disappointing thing, was not being able to coach those guys again, or that football team again. And that hit me the next morning. I was very down, and the girls and my mom and dad had gone out. I had some family in town. They had gone out to lunch and to brunch, and I really sat and reflected upon what that team meant to me, and how it was my first season, and how important they were to me. And I still have a lot of contact with a lot of those guys. The Tyler Renews, I just talked to Will Van Vick the other day. I see Kyle Weaver lives in town all the time, and Joe Crochet comes back around all the time. So it's a great senior class. I just saw Jorian Jordan today. He's working on campus. And it always brings back such great memories of that team. That once I got through that Sunday, I sat down. I had to drive myself through the Sunday, and we had a staff meeting, and we looked at recruiting. And then once recruiting got underway, I kind of put it behind us. So it took me about 2 days to kind of get the thing out of my system and move on.
With regards to the guys that you have on this roster now, because it's hard for me to kind of know where you were recruiting each guy, but are they all your guys now? Because one of the big things that Coach Houston used to talk about, and you did too, was you couldn't have been successful as you were in the previous 3 seasons had it not been for a buy-in from the guys that were already here. So have all of those guys cycled out? Do you still have remnants of some guys who were here already? They'd have to be older guys, I would imagine.
Yeah, we've got the 5th years right now, but they're great. I mean, they're great kids. We've got Ben Roberts, Tyus Carter, and Cam Jackson. They were all recruited by the previous staff, but bought in. The only thing with those guys is they were so young. They were just redshirt freshmen, really, when we came in. So they didn't really know anything else other than us for the most part. So having those guys, we kind of think of those guys as our own at this point.
Cam Jackson, I'm glad you mentioned him. Looking forward to a big season out of him. He's got some milestones ahead of him. A lot of people ask me, even though it looks balanced when you do things out of the backfield, is Cam Jackson a guy that will get more touches? Will you try to find ways to get more touches for him? What's the approach with Cam Jackson going into this coming season?
We've done a few things. Is we've kind of put a little bit more on our A-backs because they are the more experienced group in the backfield between the quarterback and the A-back. So we've done more to try to get them the ball more. There's certain things that we can't, when you run the veer, you just can't determine where that's going to go. However, when you're predetermined plays, you do, and you try to figure out more ways to get them the ball. The other thing is we got to do is incorporate them more in our passing game, and that's where Cam Jackson's different. He might as well be a wide receiver out there. He's 5'11", 6 feet tall. He's over 200 pounds. He's got great hands. I mean, he's probably one of the best catching A-backs I've ever been around. So I think that's where he probably brings more to the table, is in the pass game and trying to find ways to get him the ball. In that regard, will certainly help us out.
Bulldogs are going to get it underway coming up this week, and they will take on Newberry coming up on Saturday night. 6 o'clock ball game. The Newberry Wolves are in town. It's the 41st matchup between the two squads, but it's the first one in 20 years. We had a uniform question earlier about uniforms in general. When do you let it out what you're going to do for home games? That's a question I get a lot.
Typically, we let it out Saturday morning. We kind of put it out on a tweet. We've got a little graphic that we put out there, and we call it the uniform of the day, which is kind of always, it's been exciting. It's been fun for our guys to kind of get it out there and reveal it, essentially.
So that's the way things are going to go there. So, all right, we're almost through this one. Show number 1, almost in the books here. Coming off a season last year when you led the FCS in rushing, 348 yards. And Coach had talked about a few things about passing game, things like that. I saw something pretty in practice in the scrimmage not too terribly long ago. Nice little pop across the middle. Guy ran all the way for the touchdown. Why don't you do that every play?
Yeah, I know. It's something you've got to set up for a long time. And, we've had those open in previous scrimmages. We just were unable to hit it. And what you just try to do, you try to exploit what the defense is trying to gain extra guys on you. And when it works out, it looks certainly pretty. And when it doesn't, you're stuck at 2nd and 10, and that's where it becomes very difficult for you.
So coming into this game this week, it's an opening game. Some teams have teams they open with that have set a tempo or set a tone all throughout the course of fall camp. Some use game 1, it depends on the team, to kind of figure a few things out as far as kind of where their football team is. So at the end of the game on Saturday, if you fill in the blank and you've seen what one or two things will you be a happy guy going into game number 2?
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of things that you're looking for. One is you just want to be able to play good, clean football. Not a whole lot of missed assignments. The ball is not sloppy all over the place. You're not jumping off sides and causing penalties and those kind of things. On the defensive side, you're not giving up big plays, and you're not busting assignments everywhere. Those are the things that you look for. If you can do those kind of things and come out of camp, you can build upon that, and you can build upon getting better throughout the course of the year. I know in the first game of the year is always very, very difficult. Going back to watching that Chattanooga-Jacksonville game, I mean, there's just certain things that you see, and you're like, man, have I covered that? Have I taken care of those kind of things and the special teams and getting guys on and off the field and making sure that you've got contingency plans for everything? And that's where it kind of gets you a little bit nervous.
Let's see. You had said something a little earlier on in the show about Dominique Allen and Jordan Black. You have said that Jordan Black has earned the right to play more. Can you be specific about circumstances where you may be winning the game and Dominique Allen might be doing well, but there might be an occasion where Jordan Black might be the guy that you need to have in that next series?
Yeah, and sometimes Dominique just needs to sit back and kind of see it from the sideline a little bit or take a little bit of a breather. And that's where Jordan comes in. We don't miss a beat with Jordan in there. He can read it. He can run it. He's got such quick feet, such quick hands. It's going to be one of those things where, eventually it's going to be his offense for sure and for a long period of time. So why not start right now? Why not get him going? And why not get him acclimated to it and get him as a leadership role out there and put him to the forefront, which he certainly deserves. But, Dominique has certainly been a powerful force for the last 3 years out there.
Looking forward to getting the season started here very, very soon. Was I supposed to ask you about the sideline rule before we ended this show?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the year, we had in SoCon Media Day, we had a meeting with the head officials, and he starts showing, all these different, coaches out there. So you see Jim Harbaugh out there, and you see Dabo Swinney out there, and you see Jimbo Fisher out there, and almost to the numbers and sometimes to the hash. And at one point, I'm just sitting there, and I'm sinking back in my chair saying, oh, my God, please don't bring me up in this thing. But no, it never came up. But it's one of those things where they're trying to curb it a little bit, and not just at FCS football, but at FBS football a little bit. They want to take the little bit of the showmanship out of it. Don't show up the umpires or the officials, the referees, or anything like that anymore. You can dispute a call, but it's the over dramatization of it. I think they're trying to get rid of, and which I can certainly understand that, and I certainly got to do a much better job of that and have a little bit of calmness about how I approach it.
If you make contact with the official, they'll throw a flag. You got to be sure no contact is made, not accidentally bumping into them, impeding them from running up the sidelines. So a lot of stuff you got to keep up with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought my first year was a little bit more difficult. It's my first time on the sideline in about 10 years, and I think I'll be much better at it this year.
That should do it for this evening's show, and we'll be back to do it again next week from 7 until 8. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it very much. Good luck this week.
Thanks, Mike.
You got it. That is head coach Brent Thompson. We're going to wrap things up from here at Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue downtown, where the Citadel Bulldogs are set to take on the Newberry Wolves this weekend, the 41st matchup between the two. Both of these teams were 10-2 a year ago. 6 o'clock on Saturday night is the start time at Johnson Haygood Stadium. For Mark Romness back in our studio and for head coach Brent Thompson, I'm Mike Legg. Thanks for joining us tonight, and good night, and go Bulldogs.